Hey guys, it's Mr. Schmidt here, and in this video we're going to learn how to calculate the coefficient of the price elasticity of demand. So in the last video we talked about how we can come up with some characteristics of what makes demand elastic or inelastic, but for one we don't know how to really define or characterize, I should say, unit elasticity, nor do we have something that gives us a definitive answer as to whether something's elastic or inelastic. So what we need really is a mathematical formula, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. So what we have is something called the coefficient of PED, the price elasticity of demand. So a coefficient is just a number, and so this number is going to tell us whether the demand is elastic, inelastic, or unit elastic. So how does the formula work? Well, essentially it's a percent change formula. So we have up here, on the top we're going to do our quantities. So it's going to be Q2 minus Q1 over Q1. So the new quantity minus the old quantity divided by the old quantity. And then below that, we're going to do the same thing with prices. The new price minus the old price divided by the old price. And then what we like to do here, and then take the absolute value of that result. And so whatever that number is, and I apologize, my hand is erasing things, that number, that coefficient, is going to tell us if the demand is elastic, unit elastic, or inelastic. And so when we do the absolute value here, which means taking that result and making it a positive number, okay, a positive number. If that number is 1, the demand is unit elastic. Because what that would mean is that the percent change in quantity demanded, really these should be QDs, if anything else, is equal to the percent change in price, which is exactly how we defined unit elastic in the first video on elasticity. We said if the price goes up 20%, quantity demanded falls 20%, it's unit elastic. And if you divide the same number by itself, you get 1. So that kind of makes sense, right? If the number, so if the coefficient is greater than 1, that would mean demand is elastic, which would mean the percent change in quantity demanded is greater than the percent change in price. Okay, so that means that the effect of the price is greater than the price change itself, and so the numerator of the fraction is going to be greater than the denominator, which means we have a number that's greater than 1. And then if the coefficient is between 1 and 0, okay? So it can't be 0 and it can't be 1. The demand is going to be inelastic, which means there's a smaller percent change to quantity demanded as a result of a percent change to price, okay? So consumers aren't reacting as strongly as the price change itself, okay? So if it's a 1, it's unit elastic. If it's greater than 1, it's elastic. If it's between 0 and 1, it is inelastic. Okay? And we'll talk about what happens if it's 0 in another video. But for now, this is what we're working with. So let's go through an example. So let's say the price increases from $1 to $2. And so the first question you need to be thinking to yourself is, well, then what would have to happen to quantity demanded? Well, quantity demanded would have to decrease, right? Because the price increased. So just remember that, yes, we're trying to figure out the demand is elastic or inelastic or unit elastic, but don't forget the law of demand. Don't forget that the price rises, quantity demanded falls. It's easy to forget that when you're trying to do these calculations. And so quantity demanded then would decrease from 4 to 2. And again, I'm just making up numbers here, so don't worry about where the numbers are coming from. So, if you want to pause the video and use the formula and see if you get the same answer I do, but let's go ahead and figure out what the coefficient is and whether the demand is elastic, inelastic, or unit elastic. But before I do that, I do want to go back here just for a second and remind and kind of tell you something I forgot to mention. The bigger the number is, the stronger the elasticity is, which means consumers are increasingly sensitive to price change. Whereas the smaller the coefficient is, particularly if it's less than 1, the more inelastic demand is. The more consumers are not swayed by a price change, that they're going to continue to buy the quantity that they were buying before or something very close to it. Okay? So let's go ahead and apply this formula. So we're going to do quantity demanded first. That's the top of the fraction. So it's our new quantity minus our old quantity. Okay, and by new I mean the newest number, right? The number we stop on, right? So we were at 4, now we're at 2. So 2 is the new number. So 2 minus 4 divided by the old number 4. Okay, so this is for quantity demanded. So I'm just going to make a note here so I remember that. And so this is equal to negative 2 over 4, which is equal to negative 1/2 simplified. Okay, so that's the quantity demanded part of this. And then the price goes on the bottom. So this is going to be new 2 minus 1 old divided by 1 old. So this is 2 over 1, or to simplify it, it's 2. So then we need to take, remember, it's the percent change in QD over the percent change in price. So we need to do negative 1/2 divided by 2. And this is where working with fractions or knowing how to do that's helpful. So the way we can solve this is by making the 2 a fraction again, so 2 over 1. And then to solve a division problem with fractions, we take the bottom fraction, flip it, and then we multiply by that. So this is actually equal to negative 1/2 times 1 over 2. So you see that I flipped the 2 over 1, it's 1 over 2, and now I multiply. So straight across, this is negative 1 over 4. Now is that the answer? No, remember we have to do absolute value. So the absolute value of that coefficient is 1/4. That's very important you do that. Otherwise you're going to say a lot of things have inelastic demand because the number is going to be so small. So because the coefficient of the price elasticity of demand, the absolute value of it is 1/4, the demand would be inelastic because that coefficient is less than 1. So, you know, it's not completely uncommon for you to have to do this math. Sometimes they will give you the percent changes and all you have to do is the final step of the division. Sometimes they won't. And so you need to be able to do it both with the complete process and with given just a part of it. So I encourage you to practice doing the maths, especially so you can get good at the fraction piece. Come up with some numbers and do it. On an AP exam or in a unit assessment, the numbers will be nice, so you will not need a calculator because you cannot use a calculator. So I encourage you to practice with this so you get good at doing it. That's all for this video on calculating the price elasticity of demand. Until next time, have a great day.